folks? Cody here with another IronVerse Quickies, this time on Sunglasses After Dark. Oh, there was a lot to this issue, but first off, here's some context on this little impression of mine. Let's see if we can get this camera to focus, for instance. Find the face. There we go. I really like the cover, but and that it does kind of tell you what you're in store. But there's a complaint there too. But anyway, some context. I believe in many things. One of them is that we as a people cannot progress through enforced silence, no matter what form that takes. And this publisher and the writer makes a very valid point on this. From that standpoint alone, it is worth looking into. But how's the book as a comic? How is it? Well, the art's fine. It's nothing special. It's got some unique uses of paneling and some pages with nearly 20 panels that actually kind of worked. I was very surprised about that. This book, it was free expression, unbound from the core of its time, which again sought enforced decency. It's nothing spectacular artistically, but it gets its grimy, truthful message through. The writing, though somewhat overdone, and maybe a bit overly cruel, does indeed progress the plot, introduce the players, and lend enough personality to keep you invested. But I cannot understate this. This work is an adult work. It's brutal, it's horrific, it pulls no punches, it plays with sex, with violence, with gore, and really you gotta be ready for that. The thing is, it felt very indie, which is a very big compliment from me. I absolutely adore that. And it's piqued my interest in what other efforts this company and publisher did attempt back in the day. It's definitely worth a gander, really, particularly now when censorship is again being touted as an absolute good. Now, let me see. I can't show much. Again, this was a very brutal work. I don't want to show too much. But the cover, for instance, does the thing I don't like with covers, which is show art that you don't get in the book. So that bugged me. Let me see. I'm going to do my best not to show anything too awful, because there's some awful. I think I can show you this page. This is the 20 panel page. It's a religious zealot pulling out a dude's heart on TV to further their monetary goals, for instance. And then it's followed by a horrific scene in a mental hospital, and that's where we meet our main characters. But yeah, it's a violent, gory. It uses sex, but it's not sexy. It's the kind of art we need to eventually understand is art and continues to need to be shared, because these things, if you keep them in the dark and you don't try to understand them, they fester and they get worse and worse. And there's no harm in this expression of it, and there's harm in other expressions of it, which can manifest if the vent isn't there. Now, there's this thing. I'm going to try and block out this. This was a wonderful little bit of some trouble that Verotik and some of its creators and comic book stores were going through during this time. And if you folks have any comments or experience with when this was happening, it'd be great. But it speaks about legal problems when they had police entering comic book stores and being surprised that not everything's an Archie Comics or a Hanna-Barbera Comics. And that's something we forget can always return. This medium is not just for children. It never needed to be. Many other countries have known this for a long time, but the U.S. and its desires can fluctuate very quickly. It talks about a legal fund that they were running and many other things. This company, it seems, was raised by Glenn Danzig, which is hilarious to me, Verotik, but also Frank Frazetta and Simon Bisley, and I don't know, I definitely want to check out more of their work. If you get the chance, maybe find one of these back issues or any of their other work, like Death Dealer from Frazetta, or anything else that was cool, because we need to remember that these fights are old fights, and they've taken many different forms, but they've always been there, and there's always been people trying. And I didn't know what to expect when I picked this up when I was reading it, but I'm very glad I did. And I hope you folks consider checking out independent works. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics, and I'll see you on that old rusty IronVerse Comics trail. Take care, my friends.